people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the mother relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Man, I just want to say to let the people know that this judge is crazy, bro. This judge is, she locked me up because basically I bought a property. I did everything in my power to listen to my lawyers.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
To the home detention people. I listened to everybody to the T. She's mad that I bought a property. That's why I'm sitting in jail. She said that I shouldn't have. She wanted me to be in an apartment, a one-bed apartment. You know what I mean? And I couldn't even, you know what I mean, take that. You know what I mean? She wanted me to stay in a one-bed apartment and have my kids and nothing to come visit me and things like that. I just want to spread light on this situation because I feel as though she's taking advantage of me. She feels
You have 30 seconds remaining.
and she's doing stuff that's not right to me. I feel as though I don't know if she's a bad judge or not, but the things that she's doing right now is not right. You know what I mean? I feel as though I need to share everything on this situation.
I think it was veteran boxing scribe Jake Donovan that best characterized the situation. A continued, complete absence of accountability from Javonte Davis. I said right after his sentence hearing that I was surprised he didn't get actual jail time based on the judge's statements then. This won't help, but he'll never see it that way.
Why would he? He's a fuckwit.
He's a piece of shit. How many times do I gotta tell you he's a piece of fucking shit? He slams into a bunch of people in a car he's driving without a license, and it's the judge he says is crazy.
It's the judge that's crazy, not him.
No cognizance of how he finds himself in this predicament, in this situation. He said that he wasn't allowed to see his kids. Well, why would he?
Aren't you serving out a jail sentence?
On house arrest. Better accommodations, I'd say, than somebody who actually would have had to serve out that sentence in jail. Now, as a result of violating those guidelines, he's in jail.
Fucking genius, this guy is.
How nauseating it is to hear Javonte Davis, who pretty much got a slap on the wrist for slamming into those 4 people in that car.
Punishment doesn't fit the crime, if you ask me. He could have killed somebody.
But he thinks the judge is the one that's crazy, not himself.
Oh, it's the judge.
And on the bottom left corner of the screen, you see Javonte Davis's adoring public, his adoring supporters, basically reinforcing his behavior.
They don't think anything of what he did the same way he doesn't think anything of what he did.
Shitbirds of the same feather are going to flock together.
He's a piece of shit and so are they.
Javonte Davis is not some adolescent teen or some tween. This is a grown man who's pushing 30. I mean, he's 28 going on 29 years old. 30's right around the corner. And the lack of personal accountability.
There is none.
I believe the story is that he was staying in Calvin Ford's 1-bedroom apartment. And it wasn't to Javonte Davis's liking. I guess he was feeling claustrophobic, cramped. He must have felt that he deserved more reasonable accommodations to serve out the rest of the time during his house arrest. The story is he wanted to stay at the Four Seasons, serve the time there.
I'm telling you, this guy's everything that's wrong with boxing. He's everything that's wrong with society. And the only individuals that identify with a piece of shit like him are other pieces of shit.
Free tank!
What?
So he can slam into more people on the road whilst driving without a license. This wasn't Javonte Davis. This wasn't even his only traffic violation. He's had others in other states. That came out as a result of the court hearings.
Come out more recently, at least according to Javonte, is that the judge is mad that he brought a property, and that's why he's sitting in jail.
This story broke. I told you this butterball is a fuck-up.
Yes.
And today, tomorrow,
perhaps,
a year from now, he's gonna fuck up again because that's what fuck-ups do. That's what fuck-ups generally do. And the reason they generally do it is because they have a lack of accountability.
He didn't learn his lesson.
Why would he? He got off for almost killing 4 people with little more than a slap on the wrist. And that slap, that wasn't enough for Javonte.
I mean, think about it. They basically hit him with 3 months.
You've still got your Netflix, Hulu, your HBO Max, a couple of movies you might want to buy on Amazon Prime. You can spend the time.
Plenty of ways to pass the time.
Javonte Davis himself wanted more spacious accommodations. Perhaps he forgot he's under house arrest for slamming into 4 people.
You didn't get there by accident. You got there because of an accident you caused.
And in his own words, he feels that it's the judge that's taking advantage. It's the judge.
He says the judge isn't right.
That the judge is taking advantage. Taking advantage of who? You?
What, you're the victim in all of this?
It's the judge who isn't right, but you...
You can't make this stuff up.
You really can't. He says the things that she's doing right now is not right, but I suppose that slamming into 4 people whilst operating a vehicle without a license, oh, that's kooky crunchy. That's just fine.
Fine and dandy.
Did they forget to pack his blankie and that's why he's wetting the bed?
Gotta say, this is ridiculous.
And even with him being removed from Calvin Ford's apartment and sent to jail to serve out the rest of his time, it still feels like the punishment doesn't fit the crime. He got off too easy.
He's not gonna learn anything from this.
After this period is over, he'll fuck up again, I've no doubts. He'll fuck up again because that's what fuck-ups do.
Keep fucking up.
It's what fuck-ups do until they fuck up big enough.
It's a big enough fuck up.
I'll send him up to Kalamazoo. Men's heavyweight news. Alexander Usyk responds to Frank Warren with hilarious analogy.
Upon signing to Skills Challenge, he had a few words for Frank, who was actively trying to diminish his value as a fighter and his value in the undisputed picture.
In a recent interview with TalkSport, Frank Warren made comments on the value of Usyk in a fight deal between him and Tyson Fury. Warren said, Alexander Usyk versus Daniel Dubois went to purse bid, and the bid was $8 million. He gets $6 million. That's the value of Usyk. If Tyson Fury versus Dubois went to purse bids, that'd fetch $30 million all day long, because that's the value of Tyson Fury.
No regard for Alexander Usyk's previous earnings, his previous box office fights, the 2 fights with Anthony Joshua, what he made from those fights, well in excess of $30 million.
They did the same thing with Dillian White, attempting to manipulate the narrative by belittling the man opposite the ring. Ahead of that purse bid, the one for Tyson Fury versus Dillian White, I talked about how Dillian was a pay-per-view attraction in his own right without Tyson Fury, and he should have got more.
That if you want negotiations to go smoothly, you can't pay this guy peanuts on the dollar.
This guy's been on pay-per-view several times,
Yes.
sold out the O2 Arena with an away fighter. You've got to show that guy some respect. In that set of negotiations, Fury and Frank might have gotten away with it, but not with this guy.
Nope.
Not with Usyk.
Usyk, who responded to Frank Warren's comments by saying, "When I get on my horse in the middle of the field and I gallop my horse as fast as I can, I need really, really good conditioning for that. But when they start talking about milk and corn and wheat, what can I say? It's difficult to comment. Everything Tyson Fury and his people say, they say it to the mirror."
Because it's all rehearsed. It's all contrived in order to manipulate the narrative and control
Control the board.
As a result of Alexander Usyk signing the Skills Challenge, for some reason, Frank Warren now feels vindicated, saying, I've been saying for ages, all Alexander Usyk is interested in is getting a big payday in Saudi Arabia. I don't blame him for that, but don't make it that Tyson Fury is the greedy person. That's the reason he did not want to fight Fury in the UK.
Wait a minute. You're saying Usyk is the greedy one, not Tyson Fury.
It's going to cost these people $500 million.
Do you remember that? Do you remember when this guy was asking for $500 million, but you're saying that it's Usyk who's the greedy one? It's Usyk who's chasing big money in Saudi, not Tyson Fury.
It's going to cost these people $500 million.
Frank's still trying to spin a yarn to where the Fury versus Usyk fight collapsed because of Alexander Usyk and not Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury's refusal to give Usyk the lion's share of the pot if he wins.
If Usyk wins.
What Tyson Fury wanted, in the event that Usyk wins and he loses, is half the pot. He still wanted half the pot even if Usyk wins.
Now, I don't actually think that Tyson Fury expected Usyk to accept those terms, because at that time, Tyson Fury wasn't even in camp for a fight.
They were just a few weeks out from the proposed fight date, and his own trainer, Sugar Hill Stewart, said in plain English he hadn't been preparing Tyson Fury for an Usyk fight or any fight. The only reason he was in the United Kingdom was for Lawrence Okolie's fight.
What that tells me is that Tyson Fury was making things difficult deliberately, setting terms and stipulations he expected Usyk wouldn't agree to, so that when the fight falls apart, he can blame him.
That's why Frank Warren is still trying to blame him, but it doesn't fool anyone.
Prince Khalid, what led you to the signing of Alexander?
You know, I can put the boxing record on the side. It's big, everybody knows it. It's something unparalleled. But the values, and Alexander has values in life that just said, let's sign him. It's his values. He's a man of his word. His team, the way we worked with them, the work ethic they have, the team, the whole team. You know, it was so amazing that we said, let's go with Alexander Usyk because he's one of the top. Now he's the top heavyweight champ.
It's almost like Prince Khalid saw what was going on between Usyk and Frank and Fury, and he decided to intervene. You're trying to diminish this fighter's value, even though he's worth so much more.
You're trying to treat this guy like a dog.
On the premise of all your value, what you generate in the United Kingdom, whatever you generate in the UK, pales in comparison to the money in Saudi.
And now that money is behind Alexander Usyk. So how do you like them apples?
So it's not as simple a situation, not as simple as saying that because all the Saudi money is involved, it's a guarantee that we get the fight. It's not as simple as that. Frank Warren has stated that he's set to have a meeting with the WBC president, Mauricio Suleiman, in the coming days, and he expects him to set a mandatory for Tyson Fury's next fight. Current rankings are Deontay Wilder at number 1, Andy Ruiz at number 2, Anthony Joshua at number 3, and Frankie Sanchez at number 4.
Initially, it was supposed to be Deontay Wilder versus Andy Ruiz to crown Tyson Fury's next mandatory challenger, but that fight didn't materialize.
Now, one way it could break down is that the WBC reorders the fight between Deontay and Andy, or they skip Andy and they decide to order Wilder versus Joshua instead, and let the winner of that fight be Tyson Fury's next mandatory challenger.
What about Frankie Sanchez?
Nobody gives a fuck about Frankie Sanchez.
I've the sneaking suspicion that Tyson Fury may fight only once, just once this year. I've the sneaking suspicion that perhaps he won't fight Usyk in December. I've the sneaking suspicion that they're looking for something else, an alternative, some other way for Tyson Fury to make money.
You guys haven't thought about the deal structure in Saudi.
But I talked about this a few weeks ago, and how I wasn't sure if Frank and Bob would go along with that deal structure, because essentially what that does...
If Tyson Fury takes the money in Saudi to fight Alexander Usyk, neither Frank or Bob are in control of the board. The Saudis are, and they can auction off the rights to that fight to the highest bidder, which could be Sky, could be DAZN.
The rights to the fight could end up on the competing platform to Queensberry or the competing platform to ESPN here in America, and I don't imagine that's something that either Frank or Bob would be too happy about, but that could happen.
If Tyson Fury fights Usyk in December.
But I'm not convinced he wants to, and I'm not convinced either Frank or Bob want him to.
I'm not.
I don't get the sense they want Tyson Fury fighting on a show they don't have complete control over.
I don't get the sense that Tyson Fury wants to fight in a show where he don't have home field advantage, even if it's for substantially more money.
I don't think he wants to do it.
I'm convinced he'd rather do something else, perhaps a novelty fight with Francis Ngannou.
Former UFC champion turned PFL fighter Francis Ngannou, who took to social media posting an image of himself hitting the speed bag with a caption that reads, "Anyway, I'll be ready, Tyson Fury," to which Tyson Fury responded via his Instagram stories, "I'll have 15 pints and still knock you out, you big stiff tramp."
You're bragging about fighting a novice boxer.
Knocking out a novice boxer, a fighter crossing crossing over from mixed martial arts into boxing. I don't put it past Tyson Fury because this isn't the first that we've heard of this.
It's not.
This isn't the first that we've heard of this potential novelty fight, this circus fight. Francis Ngannou responded to Tyson Fury by saying, "Stop talking, Tyson, and come try. I'm already doing you a favor using your gloves and your rules because of your limited skill set."
I read an article a little over a week ago that stated Francis Ngannou had recently signed to the PFL, the Professional Fighters League, but he wouldn't be making his debut there this year.
They're saving that for next year because this year it's his intention to make his professional boxing debut.
They want to do a crossover fight, a novelty fight like what we saw in Mayweather versus McGregor, and all the money that was made from that crossover fight. They hope to make it with this fight. This is not the first that we've heard of this.
Now, if you're Francis Ngannou, you don't sign to the Professional Fighters League because you have intentions of really making it as a boxer, that this is an earnest crossover and an earnest effort to get into a completely different sport, a completely different discipline.
That's saying that if he has a boxing match this year, that doesn't mean he's going to stay in the sport moving forward. That just means he might cross over for a novelty fight, a payday, a cash grab with the likes of Tyson Fury. Because like I said, this is not the first we've heard of this.
And Tyson Fury's kind of coming up short of opponent options. In my previous video, we talked about a Jarrell Miller fight and how you could sell that fight in the United Kingdom. This fight, this crossover, would be an even bigger fight than that fight.
This fight, the least risks for the highest reward.
Though Tyson Fury, if this fight were to get made, would find himself subject to criticism. You're saying that you prioritize fighting Francis Ngannou more than fighting for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world in your own sport, your own discipline. You shouldn't be fighting a guy like this. You save these novelty fights for after you retire, not while you're still a reigning champion.
That's just on the premise that they actually do this thing, that they do this thing sometime in the fall or winter months.
You see what Francis Ngannou is saying, as if to imply that there's already a deal in place for them to fight, that he's coming over to Tyson Fury's sport.
Presumably for Tyson Fury.
No, I don't think Tyson Fury means to fight Alexander Usyk in Saudi. Even if there is more money in Saudi,
there are also more risks.
I don't think he fancies a fight with this guy. I don't think he ever has. And I'm starting to get the sense that maybe he has a plan of his own for the fall or winter months. And I don't know.
I don't.
Maybe that plan involves a Francis Ngannou.
Could make a lot of money with that fight.
Perhaps not as much as he'd make fighting Usyk in Saudi, but fighting Usyk in Saudi comes with risks. This fight doesn't.
That's the appeal.
I'm just brainstorming. I'm just bouncing ideas around. I mean, how confident are any of you out there that Tyson Fury will meet Usyk later on this year, that he'll fight him in Saudi Arabia for the most money that the fight pays out? How confident are you guys?
Do you think he's going to do it?
I feel like that's why Frank Warren is still making conscious effort to try to make this Usyk's fault. Wrap this around his neck so Fury has an excuse to move on and do something else entirely.